We're so close right now to some generationally historical economic shift that so many massive things are about to change that it's going to be very difficult for so many people. A crazy thing happened when I was building this video, something that's never happened to me when I was making a YouTube video ever. I'll get to it. I just want to tell you guys that I know what you're used to me talking about. You're used to me talking about a lot of the real harsh financial realities of what's going on. Things like bankruptcies, loan delinquencies, or the great American debt bomb I've been talking about for decades, and quite possibly a once-in-a-generation stock market overvaluation. So I thought, instead of what I typically talk about, why don't I go a different direction and tell you about the ways to get out of this, rather than just complain about it like most people are doing, and there's not much we can do about it besides complain.
You help yourself and people just like us when you click the like button.
I figured that I would go over a bunch of ways that we could dig our way out of this problem. And that's the point of the video, because then when I started putting it together, it ripped in half basically. I got to tell you about this. I've been warning about the great American debt bomb for decades now. And you can see in 2011, the Congress of the United States, in their blog, The Hill, they picked up my article, America is past the point of no return. There's things we could have done then to avoid going past the point of no return, which then we're now well into. And so I thought I'll start talking about the problems with the economy, the debt, the trade imbalance, the decline of the purchasing power of the dollar, yada, yada, yada. And that's when the video ripped in half. And I can't do it, to be true to myself. I'm not trying to sell books here or get views here. I'm just telling you the economic reality. And when it's different, I told you it was different. But this is what it is right now. We're so close right now to some generationally historical economic shift that so many massive things are about to change that it's going to be very difficult for so many people. We'll talk about this in this video. And I know I was trying to find some good things, but the more I thought, well, here's the debt load, and here's how fast it's growing. An 8-year-old kid could tell you that this is a problem. When you look at the realities and the trajectories of the numbers, and you look at historical precedents of what have people done in the past in similar situations, you're going to realize that the only answer is always monetary creation until the entire currency collapses. That's why every currency eventually expires worthless unless it's not fiat. Every currency in the world right now is fiat, except soon the BRICS gold-backed currency will not be a fiat currency because it's backed up by money. So the debt loads are much too big and they've climbed far too quickly. Everybody knows that. Then I look at the operating deficit. That's the money that comes in from taxation to offset all the expenses we have. And sadly, the reality, and this isn't just me telling you this, I'm not cheerleading this, I'm just telling you that you can look it up yourself. The reality is that about 50% of every dollar we spend is covered by tax revenue. The other 50% is usually money we borrow. And we used to borrow it from China and Japan, but they're selling. And who else owns a lot of American debt? The person who owns, or the group that owns the most American debt, is American citizens. Pensions, things like that. And then you look at the ongoing and eternal imbalance of trade where we just send money to other countries to buy stuff from them. That's why you go to Walmart and you choose a $5 pool that used to be $20. You vote with what you take off the shelf. And it's been proven that lower costs override the desire to buy American. But we've eternally been buying things from other countries more than they're buying from us. That's one way to get an economy back on the right footing. Have manufacturing, start producing things. The United States used to be the production hub of the entire world. That role is now being taken over by China, and we haven't adapted to that yet. We're just living the high life. But we're just sending billions of dollars out of the country. And you know all about the decline of the petrodollar, and Saudi Arabia is leaning more towards the East, Asia, China, away from America now. A lot of oil used to be bought and sold in American dollars because Saudi Arabia can dictate what they buy and sell the oil in. That's where all the control was. And now the countries that are not using the American dollar anymore are the ones who are deciding not to. And you may have noticed that there's a lot more of those countries now where they're all deciding to go against the US dollar, eliminate the hegemony of the US dollar in the world, and take over with their own BRICS currency. It's got about 45% of the entire world's population right now that would be in the BRICS nations. And while this isn't going to change anytime soon, The reserve currency, I did show you, it's got a timeline on it. It's got a limitation. It gets replaced by another one every 80 years or so. Do we have more years left in the US dollar's reserve currency? Absolutely. I don't know how much longer, but it'll be enough that you don't have to worry about it right now. And with Saudi Arabia and America making a deal that they're going to artificially control what currencies oil is bought and sold in, that's artificial. What do I always tell you about artificial things? They are always temporary. The petrodollar, don't think of it like a switch, like there's a petrodollar on and then off and no one uses it. Think of it more like a dial. The dial is gradually being turned lower in terms of US dollars being used to buy and sell oil. The dial is slowly turning. And there's no question that each war usually does a logarithmic amount of damage compared to the last war. If you look at major world wars, World War I, the Great War, the war to end all wars, it had a pretty significant casualty toll. Then World War II comes along and there's carpet bombing entire cities. And the death toll goes up by 10 times. Will the death toll go up by 10 times again in World War III? Probably. The weapons are tremendously logarithmically more powerful. But World War III, if that happens, then none of this matters anyway. So you can deal with that how you want to. Just put it out there that this is a really incredibly risky time in the world militarily on a lot of fronts. And it's not just the conflicts that people are focused on with Ukraine and Israel. There's also the South China Sea. You've got China having problems with India a little bit, problems with Indonesia a little bit. A lot of things are moving around. There's a massive war in Africa, as there always seems to be, but a lot of people, tens of thousands a year, are being killed in the Congo. But my point of telling you all this, because you know about reality already, you watch the news, you learn things. The reason I'm telling you is that from an investment perspective, which feels gross when you're talking about things that really matter, I know, but from an investment perspective, nobody seems to realize how significantly close we are to a major military escalation to some degree. It might not be World War III, but either way, if there's a small war between Iraq and Iran, that should push up prices of oil. And it's a theoretical thing. I'm not saying that's happening. I'm saying that when there's a conflict of any countries, in oil-rich countries, or they're on the trade routes, that's massive. When you're looking at what's going on with the Houthi rebels in Yemen, they got more weapons now, ship-killing missiles, they're taking out boats all over the seas. That's a problem. It's disrupting shipping lanes so significantly. It's very unlikely that this is going to be resolved anytime soon, and there's a lot of risk that's going to come from any kind of war between whichever sides. And right now we're closer to all sorts of different types of wars, and there's nothing showing up in the price of oil or gold from my perspective in terms of risk premium that would be realistic. There should be a lot higher prices for both gold and oil. And by the way, I was getting ready to tell you guys, don't worry about gold. Don't worry about gold prices. I always tell you that because gold prices came down about $100 an ounce over 2 days. But by the time I was getting ready to film, the gold prices had already bounced before I had a chance to say to you, don't worry about gold. So gold's doing pretty good today. It'll come back. It's not going anywhere. Just think of it like, will the US dollar continue to deteriorate in purchasing power? Do you think there will be more creation of US dollars? If you believe number one or number two of that statement, then yes, you should expect that gold prices are going to go a lot higher. But instead of telling you how to fix things, because it would be just absolutely monumentally ridiculous to even suggest it, nobody's going to do it. It cannot be done. A 9-year-old will tell you this. That means it's a point where you need to save yourself. And it might sound selfish, you want to save people you care about, but the way you do that is you first save yourself. You get on a good footing, you deal with what's about to come, you make some choices that I'm going to talk about in just a minute. Right after I tell you, first, all these things which are going to happen. I had to rip the video in half and take it from a different direction when I was half done it because the numbers were just so preposterously ridiculous. This debt will not be paid. They already admit that they're not going to pay the unfunded liabilities. Just because the mud hasn't hit the fan does not mean it's not airborne. So you're on the Titanic, go put on a lady's ball gown and put on some makeup and a wig and sneak onto a lifeboat. It's that time. It's time now.
The Peter Leeds newsletter is one of the most popular financial publications of all time.
The fact of the matter, overall, with where they brought us economically now, the fact of the matter is that there has to be certain things happen. There has to be a recession, I always tell you that the economy is like a set of lungs. It breathes in and it breathes out. It's time to start deleveraging. This market is way over its skis. And some people see it, some people don't agree, and maybe I keep getting proven wrong because the market can keep on going higher, just like it did in Venezuela. But I'm talking about quality of life, landing on your feet, and helping yourself first, so that then you can help all the people that you care about.
Please subscribe to get our next actionable video.
And you're hearing a ton about the banking crisis or crises which are coming up. And yes, there's going to be massive banking crises. There's a lot of exposure, especially to a lot of these corporations that own office buildings that are half empty and they can't collect enough rent to be able to cover their mortgage. There's a lot of banks on the hook for those mortgages. And as I told you, since 2011, I've been publicly talking about the Great American Debt Bomb. And the only difference between then and now is that it's much, much bigger now. And it wasn't like it kept on going up in the same trajectory. It was going up in that trajectory, and then recently we had a couple big events, and so this cranked it up higher and printed all this money, so it goes up like a hockey stick curve. The debt bomb is boiling over, and there has to be a currency crisis. Other countries which usually lend us money are watching what we're doing. We're just printing more and more money, and they realize that that is going to devalue the value of the bonds that they've already bought. That's why they're selling. That's why they're not buying anymore. The world now knows that we're just treating the creation of currency like a playground. There will be a currency crisis. There's been unnatural strength in the dollar up until recently, and now I think that it's going to start coming down now. I've said that before, and it went higher. I believe it's going to start. If not now, then soon. And you're seeing all the major defaults and bankruptcies I told you about, the default deluge. If you remember, a lot of people have been around for a long time. And you remember I've been talking about this for so long that it was coming up and that it's here now. We are in the default deluge. We're having a lot of bankruptcies. Even names you know like Red Lobster, Radio Shack, matter of time on both of those. But during all these major defaults, what happens is that, first of all, the economy gets weaker. There's more unemployment, more firings. More businesses go bankrupt. And the Treasury Department, along with the Federal Reserve, are going to put their heads together and agree to print monumental amounts of money. Another massive bout of quantitative easing. Very good for gold, very good for all commodities, very bad for the purchasing power of the dollar. But when that happens, I've told you many times that that's going to be what's going to really stoke strong double-digit inflation. Now let me ask you, do you feel it? Do you agree with any of this? Do you choose to agree? Or if you don't agree, why don't you look into it to see if what I'm talking about is accurate or not? Do you feel that we're rolling right into October and November, two of the worst months for the stock market? Do you feel like maybe we need a little bit of a stock market recalibration where maybe portions will sell off a lot more strongly than others? But very importantly, let me tell you what you can do about all of this, because I am not just complaining. I'm trying to prepare you or get you to be motivated to at least look at this and then make the choices you need to make so that you land on your feet. Number one, you save yourself. And only once you get onto solid ground, then you worry about helping out other people. And what else you can do is you can agree with what I'm saying. You can believe what I'm saying. And if you do, maybe, just maybe, you would adjust one aspect of your life. If you could do one thing today, do one thing that would put you in a better position in case everything I'm telling you is going to come to pass. If I'm 50% right about any of this, what choices would you make today? One choice. What would you do today to put you in a better position in case what I'm saying all plays out? And for extra marks, do more than one thing. Actually expect this to happen, and therefore think about how it's going to affect the markets and everything and every asset that you have. Position yourself now. Now's the time. Once the mud hits the first blade of the fan, it's too late. Adjust your entire lifestyle. We're living too high on the hog. We're living too fast and loose. I think that everybody, I did myself, cut back on expenses as much as you can. Increase your income if you can, and take an audit of your financial situation and your financial trajectory. How much money are you bringing in? How much are you spending? Where can you cut back a little bit? Not forever, just for now. This is a time to be really serious about this stuff. 2 years from now, if we're still plugging along, nothing's happened, then I don't know what I'm talking about, and there you have it. But unfortunately for you and I both, I do know what I'm talking about. Reorganize things. Sometimes a small shift can have a big impact. For example, My fridge went on the fritz. I bought a new one with the freezer on top so that I'm in a wheelchair. I can see the entire fridge and then the freezer on top. It's so much better. It's changed my life. That was a small shift that completely made a big difference. There's all sorts of things anybody can do in any moment in time, small shifts that'll make a big difference. Pack your kids' lunch the night before. It's just simple stuff, and I know you could figure it out yourself, but I'm trying to motivate you because financially, economically, you should be really thinking about reorganizing every aspect of your life. Sell the extra car, rent out the room in the basement, and above all else, always keep on learning. I always say that we have the entire amount of all collected human knowledge at our fingertips if you have Wi-Fi. So take advantage of that. Keep on learning. I learned how to make a frittata. And I've got videos on recession preparation tips, things you should think about as we enter or approach the recession. And these apply whether a depression, recession, even some of them apply no matter what, just to put yourself in a better financial position, even without a recession. So links are below this video to that video. But as I showed you in 2011, when U.S. Congress was picking up my blog that I wrote about America past the point of no return, it did make a difference then. And doesn't make a difference now that I'm talking about it. And it's not that people aren't believing the message. It's that my voice is not loud enough. And I'm doing everything I can try to do to make a taller soapbox, shout louder to the crowds. But it also has to do with you too. I'm going to need some social support here. Anything you can do to help get this message out, because so many people are going to get blindsided completely, economically and financially, especially because you're being told the economy is so strong and good on a daily basis. They're being told that. That's why they're all looking that way, and they're going to get blindsided. And this isn't so that I can get more views and sell some more books and things like that. This is so that we can help people who don't know any better, because this is about to be such a significantly difficult time financially for so many people. And some of the people who see it coming and prepare for it, position properly, are going to come out on the other side of this a lot better. Even though it'll be bad, they'll be a lot better than they otherwise would have been. So getting this word out has a lot to do with you guys, and you know what to do. And unfortunately, about everything we talked about in this video, everything we just said, I'm not wrong. For a couple bucks a month, you're supporting the channel, keeping us sponsorship free, advertisement free, independent, and we produce more and more content the more support that we receive.